Hello and welcome to Give Permission to Ask Questions. It's a new year and new adventures are afoot. So my friend Ashley gets to do her 30-second elevator pitch today.
Hi, Laurette. Thanks for having me. I'm Ashley McKarney with Involvi Consulting. We help small to medium businesses with anything regarding their people. So if you don't have enough revenue or you don't have the space to have an in-house HR department, we come in and be your physical or virtual HR department and allow the leaders to focus on what they're passionate about.
So the topic today is black and white thinking. And as soon as people are like, your HR, ew, you know what I mean? So
I do know.
What do you say to that? Because I don't think you're ew. I'm like, ooh, hey, Ashley.
Thanks. Let's turn the ew into ooh.
Yeah.
I think I've challenged that my whole life, or been challenged with that my whole life, because it's like HR, ooh, you're going to the HR office, you must be in trouble, or HR is only here to fire people or lay down the rules. And, as an HR professional, I think we also as individuals get labeled with that, do you have your HR hat on today, or is it off today for this conversation or for the holiday party or team building or whatever? And so, I think, yes, HR is here to assist the leadership and create a good foundation and create some consistency with how employees are treated. But I think they're also here to help, and they're here to make the relationships between employees and employers better so that employees want to stay and work there and turnover is reduced and so many other things. So I think we are more than just black and white. And at the end of the day, we're also humans and we know how to have fun, and not everything is HR hat on. So I think it's good to remember that.
And my thought with running a business or just being a little peon back in the day, I was like, you make best friends with the HR person right away. Go in before you have a problem and just introduce yourself so they at least know you, and then they can vouch for you because you're the middleman between big blah, blah, and you being I just started and have no idea what to do. So
yeah, and I think HR plays that really unique role in a lot of organizations where they're here for the employees. They're here to listen, give advice, coach, mentor, and provide career advice. But we're also here to be on behalf of the leaders and invoke policy and, talk about succession planning and talent management. And so we play that kind of middle line very well, that we are here for the employees and we are here to support them and help them grow and help them develop. And so, yeah, build a relationship, get to know, stop by the office, make a phone call, say hello, right? We're humans too.
So tell me about your company. When did you open it? What's your mission? Just tell me anything about your company.
Sure. So throughout my career, I've always wanted to work with leaders that were engaged with HR and that wanted to grow and develop their organization from the people perspective. And, I've had a lot of experience in a variety of industries, but when I examined my career so far, it was all very project based, whether I was an active employee in a company or supporting a company virtually. It was very, how do I help? What can I help with? Let's put out some fires. Let's develop some really great procedures. And then while I could develop in the business, I thought, okay, well, my work here is done. Let's let somebody else kind of make this their legacy. And then I would move on to another position in another company. And, that all came to fruition as this big light bulb moment last year when I said, I'm meant to be a consultant, right? I love having a variety of clients in a variety of industries, keep my life interesting and my learning ongoing. And I can do that while supporting my family and having a son. And so while I was on mat leave, a number of instances kind of opened the door for me to start this company, and I haven't looked back. So I'm super excited to support small to medium businesses, usually with 75 employees or less, work on anything regarding human capital, their people.
And I love the fact of how do you lead leaders? Because they're already leaders. Do you know what I mean? But leaders need checks and balances. So tell me more about leading leaders.
Well, I think that starts way back in the succession planning when you as a typical leader or anybody, sees Joe who's making widgets. Joe is the best widget maker alive in this organization, and he's a star. And when leaders are succession planning and organically growing their companies, they probably say, oh, Joe is a rock star. Let's promote Joe to a team lead or a manager. Not asking Joe, is he interested? Because Joe's probably looking at the pay and the salary and the titles and thinking, yeah, I want that job. Not realizing that being a manager is mostly about managing people, right? And the business, but you have to have that people component. And there are some people that are born with it, and there are some people that they just don't. And so they need to be provided training and development. And so as we lead leaders, it's all about coaching them in the direction that they're really passionate about and helping them see their strengths and say, okay, are you meant to lead people, or are you meant to lead process, physical products, things like that? And really putting them where their niche is. And that will allow them to grow, because you can't force a square peg in a round hole.
No. And that's why I teach personality and authentic happiness, because most people aren't even like having the inside conversation of what kind of personality type am I? So like that's human capital. That's like working with HR is like, hey, let's have some conversations about who you are and where you fit. So that's great analogy, actually. I always forget about that one.
I think there's a lot of assessments out there too, and there's a lot of tools that leaders and organizations can leverage to help understand what is your personality versus mine. How do we communicate? How do we have expectations? How do we deal with stress, right? There's all of these factors that come into you and me working together in an organization. And sometimes it fits and sometimes it just doesn't. And I think that that's a real self-awareness piece for leaders and their teams as well.
So where are you heading in the future? What is the vision of your company?
You know, we aim to make employment relationships seamless. And so we want to take the stress off of leaders that just want to make widgets. And now all of a sudden they're managing people. And so we want to be able to take that stress off of them, whether it's in a very small capacity or a large capacity. We just want to help as many small businesses as possible be successful. And turnover is so expensive. And while organizations don't get an invoice of this is how much turnover cost you today, we can create that ROI and we can show them that it costs between $4,000 and $60,000 to replace one person. And if you look at everything that's involved with that, working to keep them is such a better strategy. And so we really aim to focus on people and culture within the organization and grow the business that way, rather than saying, yeah, we can let them go. Let's replace them and find somebody better. I mean, there are some natural attrition things that you can't avoid, but how do we really focus on making that not a reoccurrence within the business?
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone yesterday. Can't remember who, but like, it was like, if you have a worker that's been there for like 5 years, easy. They don't need to be told what to do. They just do it. You get paid by hourly. Do you know what I mean? And it's very smooth and flawless. That's why you want to keep them. But like this person's like, oops, made a mistake, cost $1,000. Like it just happened, right? So I think it's a good investment to hire HR and be like, hey, how do we keep the people that we've already trained for like a year? Because the average person stayed at a job for like 5 years. And after that, there's like some sort of pain point, like, oops, I don't like my job anymore. And that's where I come in. But like, if you did the due diligence early about where you belong, like where you want to work, you wouldn't have that problem 5 years later. You'd be like, no, I'm happy here. Let's stay here, grow and develop with the company. Companies want that. Like when I hire people eventually, I'm going to go out and want people that I know, like, and trust and have the same mindset as me. Like, totally. If you don't fit in my circle, you probably shouldn't be working for me.
Yeah, but you also want to look for people that challenge you too, right? If you hire a Laurette 2.0,
right,
then you guys are going to be going down the same path and you won't see other opportunities, right? And so it's always good to hire people that are different than you and then look for their strengths so that they complement you where you may be weak. But going on your point of like the 5-year person and they're comfortable and they're just going to do a good job, I think organizations really need to take a step back and do a survey or understand their employees in each group of tenured employees. So 0 to 6 months, 6 months to 2 years, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, and so on, because each employee within your organization, depending on tenure and engagement with that company, is going to be need to be treated a little differently, right? Your example of that 5-year employee, they're comfortable, they're good, great, but then we almost take them for granted and we don't talk to them and we don't say hi to them as often and we don't say, how is your career? You know, where do you want to go? What do you want to do within the company? And do regular check-ins. Sometimes we just say, no, Susie's really great the way she is. She's been here for 5 years. She's comfy. Let's just let her be. Let's focus on the new employees. Well, then Susie's going to start to get resentful because she's not getting FaceTime, right? I was watching a movie yesterday and I wanted to video record it, this one section, because this employee had been with a company for 17 years and the only conversation he had with his manager was the day he was let go. And I know that's a really extreme case and hopefully that never happens. But you know, it was a glaring kind of representation of how important communication is with every one of your team members, and they need to be treated so. So anyways, that was just kind of a little tip there, is you need to look at everybody in your organization and not forget the ones that are just consistent.
And like, I'm biased because like, I like people that have like high paying jobs but are unhappy. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are my niche clients. So I'm like, maybe I like it if you're unhappy in your job and you've been there for 10 years. So like, that's where my bias comes in. You're right.
Yeah. No, and I think your skill set and your offering is so important because there are so many people in organizations that are working there and just kind of been there for 5-10 years. They're going through the motions. They go to work every day and they've never thought, oh, should I make a change? Oh, what do I really want to do? They're just really comfortable. And so I think you being there to push them and have them explore that self, awareness and what do I really want to do and what makes me happy is so, so crucial. And I think HR within an organization can facilitate that internally, but you have that third party representation to step out and say, it may not be in this company, but what do you want to do? Because there's a world out there to explore, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
That's the whole point of going back to like, we don't live in a black and white society. We live in color. We don't even live in gray anymore. There's way too many layers upon layers upon layers. Like, I just found out your subconscious is like a billion times more creative than your like actual conscious mind. Like, you have this powerhouse within you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, how are we going to use this?
Yeah. Think about how much goes on in your head while you sleep, right? Or I do my best thinking in the shower because there's nothing else going on. Right. So I think it's important to explore that and give that space and time in your day.
So I wanted to go onto the mission. So within my company, I always talk about like vision, mission, purpose, and values. And we've had tons of values questions. And like, I asked you earlier what your vision is. I like the mission because it's a choose your own adventure thing. And like, honestly, that's why I'm opening choose your own adventure classes. But within your company, what is the mission of your company?
I think maybe I messed up the mission and vision last time. I mean, our vision is to grow and develop and help as many people as possible, but our mission is to make those employment relationships seamless, and really just work with engaged leaders that don't want HR in their office as an administrative checkbox. There are HR administrators that are really happy to do that, but there's a lot of HR professionals out there that want to see growth, that want to implement some of these really cool things that are happening. And for instance, like when you look at organizations like, I think it's Netflix and a few others that are offering like unlimited vacation. Well, that's not going to work for all the organizations, but if an HR, rep or professional in an organization sees that as a possibility, to have roadblock after roadblock and hear no, no, no from their leaders all the time really gets discouraging. And I think, we want to be here to facilitate some of that, to be a third party, to say, hey, have you thought of this? And ultimately, it's the leaders' decisions on how they want to move forward. But we feel like we bring those really great ideas and those best practices to the table to at least show them what's out there, and then work with them in the lane that they want to play in.
I read this article and like, it's super biased because Laurette read it, but it was like, this company gave all of their employers, workers, 60,000 or like 6 figures. They're like, here, make as much as we do, but you have to stay at our company because we like you, right? So, and like it got crazy reviews of like, this is the best place to work. I really like it. They value my work. And like it never got like national coverage. They like tried to cover it, but like the company exploded and did really, really well. But because it's outside of the norm, people are like, don't listen to that company. That company's crazy. They gave like a buttload of money to their workers. But I'm like,
Yeah.
that happens when you care about people. So it was just a really interesting article, and it's thinking differently. That's my dog. than like the common culture. So
Yeah. No, and I saw something similar where an organization made their minimum wage 75 grand
yeah.
within their organization. So nobody made less than that. And, you know, those are the really out of the box thinking ideas that's not going to work for every company.
No.
You know, if a company doesn't have a huge revenue stream, or they're a startup business, or there are clients because they're a smaller business, it just won't work. But then how do we take that really great idea that yielded those results and adapt it to those organizations? And those are the strategy piece behind the culture and the engagement of the employee discussions that we really like having and we like exploring. And yes, we're here to do the administrative functions and take all that paperwork off and do all those day-to-day tasks. But, you know, it's those strategy discussions and those vision discussions that get really fun and exciting.
And like that's why I believe in syndicate.org. Like I know first year in business, I was like, I'm not gonna succeed by myself. I'm crazy. Like I know who I am. So I was like, I need checks and balances. So like Ashley is one of my checks and balances. And it's just really neat because like again, not an HR person. Everyone thinks I'm an HR person. And that's the whole point of like, okay, we're living in gray now. I don't fit the HR. I have no certifications in HR. I have all my certifications in career development. So I find it fascinating that like people just don't understand the simplicity of HR or the simplicity of career development. I have to constantly explain to people what I do. So I'm like, well, I do the theories of career development and I teach and train. And they're like, I get it. I'm like, fine, just come to like one of my what is career development classes and you'll see.
And I think HR gets painted with that brush too, right? Is because all HR is here to do, like we talked about earlier, is policy, procedure. They have to be those policy police, right? They're here to fire people. They're here to hire people and do the paperwork. And I think those days are behind us. Yes, there are some leaders that still believe that and they operate that way. But HR is here to be a strategic partner. You are here to leverage the internal strategic piece of people and have them kind of have that light bulb moment of what do they want? Because you ask those really thought-provoking questions that unless you've been in therapy for years and have a ton of self-awareness, right? You have that ability to like have those light bulb moments go off in people and go, oh, that is actually what I want to do. And I think saying it out loud and writing it down confirms it so much more than just in the head going, well, I think this is what I want, right? Mm-hmm. And going back to syndicate.org or the syndicate group that we're both a part of, I mean, I started my business last, fall-ish, closer to Christmas. And then the pandemic happened. And I thought to myself, what am I doing starting a business that's largely going to be developed by networking at the beginning of a pandemic? And then I thought, why the heck am I joining a networking group and a business growth group at the beginning of a pandemic? And realistically, I wouldn't be where I am today without a lot of that support from our tribes, from our family there, because they push you. We write things down every single month that kind of put it in front of our faces. And I think you and I can both attest a lot of our growth personally and professionally to that organization. It's fabulous.
I was zero. Do you know what I mean? When I came in, like fresh meat, I thought wolves were going to eat me. But I learned real quick and I'm okay now.
I remember your first meeting or your first, group session. It was just, you were just a fish out of water going, okay, I want to learn, but I have no idea what to do.
Okay, Lorette, it's quiet time. Like, just listen. I want to get back, and this is like the final culmination of you go into business and you open your own business, but everyone's like, oh, HR is the enemy. And it's so ridiculous because, and I'm talking about my brother married an HR person and she got out of HR because she's like, people are so mean. Like she was just like, I can't handle this. I don't want to work with people anymore. Like I'm done. So I really hate, and I understand your pet peeve of like just the random person that's like HR is evil and like blah blah blah. I'm telling you today, it's not evil. Like Ashley is the nicest person ever. I got no beef with Ashley, and like Ashley didn't open her own company to be like I'm going to be your enemy. I mean, you
Yeah.
opened your company to do something great and to help people. So that's why I'm like, let's clarify this, people.
Well, and I think, you know, even I hear horror stories about HR professionals out there from my friends that are trying to get jobs or going through the recruitment process or have HR in their organization. There are varying levels of HR professionals and what they see as a successful HR career, just like there isn't, I'm sure, in career development. I'm sure there's doctors out there that, you know, are better than others, lawyers, same thing, every profession, right? And so I think you have to get to know your HR team, and I think you have to give them a chance, and you're going to click with them or you're not. But, you know, I think that goes back to the whole fact of we are just humans. We are there to help. We are there to support. And I get comments all the time of like, thank you for actually being there for me, or thank you for actually following up on my interview and at least telling me I didn't get the job. Because, you know, a friend of mine has gone for countless interviews during this pandemic trying to find new employment. And every time the HR person is like, we will get back to you by this date, or we will for sure let you know whether you're successful or not. And then they ghost them. And yes, it's probably best intentions. They just got busy and forgot, but they've maybe never been on the other side of that coin where you've said, I'll get back to you, and then you just don't. That leaves that person really deflated. And in a market like this, or any market where jobs are really hard to come by and hard to keep, we have to do what we can to support those people that aren't getting the jobs and that, you know, need a little bit of that help, which is where you come in, right? But within organizations, I think we have to challenge ourselves to be a little bit better and focus on the impression that we are leaving. Because if we're working for a company and I'm representing a brand, and I say, I'll call you back, and I don't, that person is now not only reflecting on me as a professional, but also the brand that I'm working for, right? Because as HR, we are salespeople for that company.
Yeah.
And so we're selling the people, we're selling the career, we're selling the opportunity to grow and develop with that company. And we have to operate so. And I think there's a lot of misses there, but, you know, I think the people that do it well, do it really well, and they get recognized for it.
And like, just on the counter product, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just gonna say it wrong. That's just how it goes sometimes. The people that like are up in willy-nilly, like they're waiting for that call for that company.
Yeah.
I tell people to follow up. Like, hey, if they told you they were gonna call you by Wednesday and they didn't call you by Wednesday, please just give them a call on Thursday and just be like, hey, you said you were gonna call me and you didn't. Like, even if it's just an email, like you yourself as a person looking for a job are a product as well. And like you can come to the table and be like, okay, you've ghosted me. However, I still like your company. I still want to work for your company because I believe in the rejection. I believe in getting rejected from a company. So you're like, hi, I exist. Like, get rejected, but then they'll know you, right? And then the next time you have an interview, they'll be like, did we interview you like a year ago? And I'm like, oh yeah. There's been tons of times where I've got rejected. Concordia University, rejected, didn't get the job, had a great interview, applied like a month after they rejected me. They were like, please don't come in for an interview. We're already going to hire you. I'm like, yeah.
That's perfect.
A good rejection.
No, and I think that's a really good point, because I think there's a lot of other perceptions with HR, because yes, there are human rights employment standards that we have to follow in order to treat people properly and treat people consistently, right? And every profession has those kind of black and white rules, right? Going back to the very beginning of our conversation. And so when you do get rejected, if you get that phone call and you ask why, or just like if you get fired and you ask why, we are bound to not say specific things, because that holds us as people and the company liable. And so that can be really frustrating. But if you as a person looking for a job or in an organization or somebody that got let go is looking for support and is looking for reasons and answers and the company can't give it to you, it's not their fault. But seek other professionals out there that can give you that mentorship, can give you that informal or formal coaching, and yourself to like help with that self-awareness, and maybe see that if you go into an interview and you're, you haven't showered in days, or you didn't do your hair, or you wore a hoodie, right, to a, really upper class office that wears suits and ties, maybe you don't have the self-awareness that that's just not okay, right? And so, seek that self-awareness and be open to suggestions and comments, because it can only help you get better.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time on Give Permission to Ask Questions. Is there any last advice that you'd like to share?
No, I mean, I say no, and then I'm going to say something. So yes. I just think that HR kind of gets painted with the same brush. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for HR to do good. And a lot of organizations look at HR as a cost department because we don't directly bring revenue in like a sales team, but we end up saving money and we end up bettering employees, which then betters the productivity of the organization, and so on and so forth. So I think it's worth an investment, even a little bit per month, or a sounding board like our HR hotline. And I would say just give it a chance. Yeah.
And honestly, 2021, this year is going to be great. And I'm just going to read your thing. Do something great, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Something great. Do something great.